In silver circles or on YouTube, you'll hear the term face value a lot, and it can be quite confusing at first. $1 face value, $10 face value, or the cost today might be 65 times face value. So let's break it down. Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Today we're going to be talking about face value, and no, $1 face value is not how much silver you can get for $1. It is actually an amount of silver defined by the U.S. law in the 1800s. Congratulations to Emily Derbs for being the first comment on yesterday's video. Make sure you find her down in the comments and start a conversation. It's confusing enough that precious metals is measured in troy ounces instead of kitchen scale ounces that we've all been so used to. But now when you start looking at 90%, you hear about a totally different unit, dollars of face value. So let's just start with the basics. Face value is just the monetary value stamped on a coin, a dime, a quarter, $50, or dollar. But for most of U.S. history, that face value wasn't just a number of dollars. It represented the amount of silver actually defined by law that coin contained. Back then, these weren't collectibles or investment tools. They were simply money. The definition of $1 face value actually comes from a Coinage Act in 1873. This law formally defined what U.S. money was made of. Under this act, $1 was defined as 25 grams of 90% silver. That was the legal definition of a dollar. If you held $1 in silver coinage, you had about 3/4 of a troy ounce of silver, more accurately 0.723 ounces of silver. But of course, these coins circulated. Over time, a small amount of them wore away, so we can't just leave it at 0.723 ounces. If we were to account for the wear, industry standard accounts for 1.2% of wear that actually takes those 25 grams for a dollar down to 24.68 grams. This exact amount of 90% silver makes it so that $1.40 is equivalent to 1 troy ounce. Here in my hand, I have $1.40, and this contains 1 ounce of silver. And now that we have that set ratio, $1.40 in face value being equivalent to 1 troy ounce, we can take that and cut it in half or in quarter or multiply it up. So that would mean that 35 cents, or just 1/4 and 1 dime, would be equivalent to a 1/4 ounce, where 70 cents, a $50, and 2 dimes would be equivalent to a 1/2 ounce. I personally like to think of it in chunks of $3.50 being equivalent to 2.5 ounces. When getting smaller, you can see how important the dimes are. 1 dime being 1/14 of an ounce has to be used when trying to make a clean amount of silver like the 1/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce, or 1 ounce until you get to the point of 2.5 ounces. That $3.50 can be made up in any denomination, quarters, $50, or dimes, so that is an easy way for you to make that size in any denomination that you stack. You'll often see people organizing 90% silver in tubes like these. This holds $10 of face value, or 40 quarters, where the $50 tubes also hold $10 of face value, or 20 $50. If we take that same math, these $10 of face value actually equivalent to 7.14 ounces of silver, all wrapped up in this small tube. And right there you can see how the math starts getting really weird when going back and forth between face value and ounces. So that's why 90% silver is typically priced by face value. When you go into a shop, you might see something like 62 times face or 68 times face, What that means is if you were to take the 68 and multiply it by the 50 cents that is the $0.50, that is going to be your price for that coin. In the case of 68 times face value, that would be $34 for a $0.50. But here I actually have $35 of face value. So that's these 3 tubes of 10, the quarters and the $0.50, and a tube of dimes that is $5. This $35 actually makes up 25 ounces of silver. My goal is to make tubes like this in groups of $35 to make adding all of this up extremely easier. So this right here, $35 is 25 ounces. That means if I was to make $70, that would be 50 ounces, and that can keep going all the way up. Right now, I buy $1 of face value every single week on a rotation of dimes, quarters, $0.50, and then silver dollars. And well, don't even get me started on silver dollars because those aren't even 25 grams. They're actually a little bit more. And that could be a topic for another video. But if you like today's video, make sure you go down and give it a thumbs up. Ask any questions or make any comments down in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see the videos I'm coming out with next. And share this with anyone you think might enjoy it or learn from it. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up. So no matter how small, just keep stacking.